prepare for the future, be as resilient as possible. Now, of course, if you have a hurricane that devastates half of a country, there is not much one can do. That's certainly the case. And then you need to rely on other types of schemes like insurance and donors and help from other organizations. That's a given, unfortunately. There is nothing one can do. But at the end of the day, you can have a country in a better shape, being more resilient to shocks, not only climatic, but also economic shocks. So the Caribbean is very much dependent, let's say, tourism, what happens in the UK, what happens in the US, trade, and so on and so forth. So once you have institutions that set clearer understanding of how the government is going to behave, so that makes a more resilient economy. Now, if you get a terrible shock, so it's difficult to address the shock. But if you have a clearer understanding how fiscal policy is going to be implemented, if you have some resources allocated for, let's say, a hurricane, if you have some savings for the future, if you have some escape clauses, because at the end of the day, these rules are good for a particular moment in time, but you don't know what's going to happen in the medium term. So all these rules, if one takes a look at the literature, you have some escape clauses. So if there is a shock that was not expected, so you can deviate from the rule. As long as there is a commitment, there is a strategy, how you are going to come back. So that's basically how fiscal rules evolve. So these are not really straight jackets that simply tie your hands and leave and gives no possibility of deviating. Now, the idea is to tie your hands for expenditures that are not desirable. So if you are in the midst of a political campaign, so you don't want the ruling party to start spending. So you have a rule that specifically puts a limit to that and avoids such a cycle. But if you have a climatic event that no one anticipated, or even if you anticipated, it's difficult really to face a situation of that sort. So there are possibilities of deviating without losing the trust of economic agents that you are implementing a sound fiscal policy. So at the end of the day, what we want to have is more clarity and more certainty and a commitment that fiscal mismanagement won't take place.